Sign here, here, and initial here. The words cut through the sterile silence of the hospital room like a scalpel. Marcus Wellington kept his eyes closed, his breathing steady and shallow, exactly as he'd been doing for the past 72 hours. Are you seriously doing this right now, David? The man is in a coma. That was his sister, Patricia. Even through his closed eyelids, Marcus could picture her expression, the one she always wore when she wanted to appear morally superior. A coma caused by extreme exhaustion and stress, according to his doctors. David Chun, his business partner of 12 years, replied with barely concealed impatience. Which means he worked himself into the ground. Which means someone needs to step up and actually run Wellington Tech before our investors pull out completely. Marcus heard papers rustling. Legal documents, probably. The sound made his jaw tighten, but he forced himself to remain perfectly still. The board meeting is in 6 days. David continued. If Marcus can't attend, and clearly he can't, the emergency succession clause kicks in. I become acting CEO with full decision-making authority. How convenient for you, Patricia said, but her voice lacked conviction. Convenient? Patricia, I've been carrying this company for the last 2 years while your brother had his midlife crisis or whatever this is. Do you know how many times I've covered for him missing meetings? How many deals I've closed while he was unavailable? Marcus felt a flash of anger. Midlife crisis? He was 43 years old, and he'd built Wellington Tech from a startup in his garage to a company worth $3.2 billion. He'd sacrificed everything, his marriage, his health, any semblance of a normal life for that company. And this was how David talked about him when he thought Marcus couldn't hear. I'm just saying it seems awfully suspicious, Patricia said, though she sounded uncertain now. Marcus collapses the same week you were trying to convince him to sell to Hyperion Global, and now you're trying to take control of his company. Our company, David corrected sharply. I own 40%, remember? And yes, I wanted to sell to Hyperion because it was a smart business decision. Marcus was the one being sentimental, acting like Wellington Tech was his child instead of a corporation. That kind of emotional attachment is exactly what led to this. He gestured at Marcus's motionless form with what Marcus imagined was barely disguised contempt. Maybe he just needed rest, Patricia offered weakly. Maybe he needed to grow up. David shot back. Look, I'm not the bad guy here. I'm trying to save what Marcus built. If he wakes up and wants to fight me for control, fine. But right now, someone has to make decisions, and I'm the only one qualified to make them. There was a long pause. Then Patricia sighed, a sound Marcus knew meant surrender. Where do I sign? Here. As his next of kin and medical proxy, you're authorizing me to act on his behalf for all business matters during his incapacitation. Marcus heard a pen scratching against paper. His own sister, selling him out without even putting up a real fight. When he wakes up, if he wakes up, David interrupted. When he wakes up, Patricia insisted with a hint of steel. You better hope you made the right decisions. I always do. Their footsteps receded. The door clicked shut with a finality that felt like a coffin closing. Marcus lay in the darkness behind his eyelids and wondered, not for the first time since this insane plan began, what the hell he was doing. It had started 3 weeks ago, during a board meeting that felt like it might actually kill him. The quarterly projections are down again. His CFO had announced, like she was pronouncing a death sentence. If we don't make significant changes, we're looking at our first negative growth year since 2018. Marcus had sat at the head of the conference table, feeling the weight of 17 pairs of eyes boring into him, waiting for him to fix it, waiting for him to have the answer. Always waiting. I've already cut costs across 3 departments. He'd said, hearing the exhaustion in his own voice. We've streamlined operations. We've optimized our supply chain. Maybe it's time to consider the Hyperion offer. David had said smoothly, $3 billion, Marcus. You'd walk away with nearly $2 billion after taxes, and everyone gets paid out. We'd all be set for life. Wellington Tech isn't for sale. Wellington Tech is hemorrhaging money and running on the fumes of its founder's reputation. David had countered. How much longer can you keep this up? You look like you haven't slept in a month. He hadn't. Not really. Just fragments of sleep stolen between crisis management and putting out fires and trying to figure out how everything had gotten so complicated. I just need time to think, Marcus had said. But time was the one thing he didn't have. Time to think, time to breathe, time to remember who he'd been before he became Marcus Wellington, founder and CEO, the man with all the answers. So he made a desperate, stupid decision. He'd faked a medical crisis. It had been easier than he'd expected, actually. A carefully worded conversation with his doctor about his stress levels and blood pressure. A theatrical collapse at the office. An ambulance ride. And suddenly, here he was, checked into the city's most expensive private hospital with a diagnosis of stress-induced catatonia with unresponsive episodes. Basically, a coma that couldn't be proven or disproven. A coma he could wake up from whenever he was ready. The plan had been simple. Disappear for a week, let the pressure die down, let everyone else deal with the problems for once, and then recover with some renewed clarity about his life's direction. What he hadn't planned for was discovering exactly what people said when they thought he couldn't hear them. The visitors came and went over the next 2 days like vultures, circling a corpse that wasn't quite dead yet. His ex-wife, Camille, showed up on day 4. She stood at the foot of his bed for exactly 3 minutes in silence before speaking. I should feel something, she said quietly. Sadness, maybe. Worry. But mostly I just feel relieved. Is that terrible? She moved closer, and Marcus caught a whiff of her perfume. The same one she'd worn throughout their 8-year marriage. The lawyers called. Apparently, if you die or become permanently incapacitated, I'm entitled to renegotiate the divorce settlement. Something about clauses in the prenup that covered this scenario. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I told them I wasn't interested. I already took enough from you, Marcus. Or maybe you took enough from yourself. Her hand touched his arm briefly, and the warmth of it shocked him. I hope you wake up. Not for me, or the company, or any of that. I hope you wake up and figure out how to actually live instead of just existing at the center of controlled chaos. Because that's all you've been doing for years, existing. And that's not the same thing as being alive. She left, and Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. His mother came next, escorted by his Aunt Denise. Look at him, his mother said, her voice thick with something Marcus couldn't quite identify. My successful son. My brilliant son, lying here like a shell. He'll pull through, Sandra. Marcus is a fighter. A fighter. His mother's laugh was bitter. Marcus hasn't fought for anything real in 20 years. He fights for quarterly earnings and stock prices and market share. But when's the last time he fought for something that mattered? When's the last time he fought for himself? That's not fair. It's completely fair. I raised him to be strong, independent, to build something meaningful. And he did. But somewhere along the way, he forgot that the business was supposed to serve his life, not the other way around. Now look at him. 43 years old, divorced, no children, no real friends, working himself into a hospital bed. Marcus felt each word like a physical blow. What was it all for? His mother continued, and now she was crying. All that money, all that success, all that prestige, what did it get him? He can't even enjoy it. He's too busy making more money, building more success, chasing more prestige. It's like watching someone drown in gold coins. He's going to be fine, Sandra. Is he? Even if he wakes up, is he going to be fine? Or is he just going to go right back to drowning? They left without touching him, and Marcus realized his mother was probably right. About all of it. The board members came in pairs and trios, having hushed conversations about restructuring and contingency plans and succession strategies. Some seemed genuinely concerned. Most seemed more worried about their own positions and portfolios. His personal assistant, Jennifer, who'd worked for him for 6 years, spent 15 minutes crying at his bedside before whispering, I already updated my resume. I am Billionaire Marcus. but I have to be practical. His younger brother, Raymond, showed up drunk and bitter. You always had to be the golden child, didn't you? The successful one, the smart one. Well, look at you now. Successful yourself right into a coma. Real smart, Mark. Real smart. Even his therapist, the one he'd seen exactly 3 times before deciding he was too busy for mental health, came by as a professional courtesy. She stood silently for a moment before saying, I wish you'd kept coming to sessions. We could have worked through this before it came to whatever this is. By the end of day 5, Marcus had heard enough. He understood now what he'd been trying to escape. Not just the pressure and the stress, but the truth about what his life had become. He'd built an empire and lost himself somewhere in the foundation. He was ready to wake up, ready to face it all and figure out how to fix it, or at least how to live with it. But then the night Janitor came in, and everything changed again. She entered quietly around 11 p.m., pushing a cleaning cart that squeaked with each rotation of its wheels. Marcus had learned the hospital's rhythms over the past 5 days, the nursing shifts, the doctor rounds, the visiting hours. But the night cleaning crew was new. He heard her move around the room with practiced efficiency, the rustle of a trash bag being replaced, the soft spray of cleaning solution, the methodical wiping down of surfaces. All right, Mr. Wellington, she said softly, apparently talking to his unconscious form as she worked. Let's get your space cleaned up. I know you can't appreciate it, but your visitors track in all kinds of mess. Her voice was younger than he'd expected, mid-20s, maybe. There was a slight rasp to it, like she was getting over a cold or had been crying recently. She moved to the window, and he heard the blinds being adjusted. There, better light for the morning, whenever you decide to wake up. If you decide to wake up. She paused. The nurses say you might be in here for a while. Stress-induced catatonia. That's a fancy way of saying your brain decided to check out, I guess. She moved closer to his bed, and he caught a scent of industrial cleaner mixed with something floral. Cheap perfume, or maybe just fabric softener. Must be nice. She continued, her voice thoughtful. Being able to just stop. Turn everything off. Let the world keep spinning while you take a break from it. She was quiet for a moment, apparently wiping down his bedside table. That was insensitive. You're probably not enjoying this at all. Or maybe you can't hear me anyway. Dr. Patel says patients in comas might be aware of their surroundings, might hear conversations, but who knows? I'm probably talking to myself. She laughed softly, sadly. Wouldn't be the first time. More sounds of cleaning. The cart moving, supplies being rearranged. You know what's funny? She said after a while. I read about you. Before I started this shift, I looked you up. Marcus Wellington, tech billionaire, self-made success story. The guy who built an empire from nothing. She was wiping down the machines now, getting close to his face. The articles made it sound like you had everything. Money, power, respect. They said you were a genius. A visionary. They said you had it all figured out. Her hand paused in its cleaning motion, hovering somewhere near his shoulder. But if you had it all figured out, why are you here? The question hung in the air like smoke. Why does someone with everything end up so stressed out that their brain just stops? What's the point of having all that money and success if it puts you in a hospital bed? She moved away, back to her cart. I guess that's a stupid question. I'm a janitor working double shifts to make rent. What do I know about the problems of billionaires, right? But her voice didn't sound bitter or resentful. Just genuinely curious, maybe even sympathetic. Although, she trailed off, and Marcus heard her sit down in the chair beside his bed with a heavy sigh. Although I guess pressure is pressure, right? Stress is stress. Maybe it doesn't matter if you're stressed about running a billion-dollar company or stressed about making rent. Maybe it all feels the same when it's crushing you. Another long pause. Marcus became aware of how steady his breathing needed to stay, how perfectly still he needed to remain. I shouldn't be sitting. If my supervisor catches me, I'll get written up. But my feet are killing me, and you're not going to tell on me, are you, Mr. Wellington? He heard what might have been a smile in her voice. I've been on shift for 11 hours. Started at noon. Got called in early because Maria's son is sick, and she couldn't make it. So I did my day cleaning at the medical center downtown, then came here for the evening shift. I'll be here until 7 a.m., then I have to be at another building by 8. She was talking faster now, like the words were spilling out against her will. It's fine, though. The extra shifts mean extra money, and we need every dollar we can get right now. My mom's diabetes medication went up again. Insurance doesn't cover the full amount anymore. And Terrell needs new shoes because his feet grew again. I swear that boy grows an inch every month. Her voice softened when she mentioned Terrell. A brother, Marcus guessed, or maybe her son. And the car is making that noise again. The mechanic said it's probably the transmission, which means at least $2,000 that I definitely don't have. But I need that car to get to all these jobs, so I'm just driving it and praying it holds together for a few more months. She laughed again, but this time it sounded more like a release of tension. Listen to me, dumping all this on a man in a coma. But I guess that's the nice thing about talking to someone who can't respond. No judgment, right? You can't tell me that I should have gone to college, or that I should have made better choices, or that I should have planned better for emergencies. Her voice was getting shakier now. I did go to college for what it's worth. 2 years before I had to drop out when Mom got sick. And I did make good choices. I work hard, I pay my bills, I take care of my family. And I do plan for emergencies, but when the emergencies never stop coming, there's no amount of planning that helps. Marcus heard her stand up, the chair scraping softly against the floor. You don't need to hear all this. You've got your own problems. She went back to cleaning, and Marcus thought that would be the end of it. Another glimpse into another life. Another reminder of how disconnected he'd become from real struggles, real problems. But then she stopped. He heard her cart go still. And when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. They're trying to evict us. Again. The words fell like stones into still water. The landlord raised the rent last year. We barely managed to pay it. Then he raised it again this year. $600 more a month. That's $7,000 more a year. $7,000 we don't have. Her voice cracked. I took on extra shifts. Mom started selling her crafts online. Terrell got a part-time job, even though he should be focusing on school. And we still came up 3 months behind. So now, there's an eviction notice on our door, and we have 30 days to come up with $4,500 or we're out. Marcus heard her breath hitch, like she was trying not to cry. $4,500. That's probably less than you spend on a suit. But for us, it might as well be $45 million. I've been working every shift I can get, barely sleeping, barely eating, running on coffee and prayer, and I'm still $1,200 short with 2 weeks left. She was crying now, soft, quiet sobs that she was clearly trying to muffle. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to fix this. I've applied for assistance programs, but there's waiting lists. I've asked for advances on my paychecks, but I've already done that twice and they won't let me do it again. I've sold everything I can sell. I've borrowed from everyone who'll lend. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Marcus felt something inside him split open. But I have to keep going, right? What else is there? I can't give up. Mom depends on me. Terrell depends on me. If I fall apart, we all fall apart. So I just keep fighting, keep pushing, keep hoping that somehow, some way, it'll work out. She wiped her face. He heard the rustle of fabric, probably her sleeve against her cheeks. Sorry, Mr. Wellington. That was a lot. You didn't need to hear all that. You've got enough to deal with, lying here in your coma or whatever this is. She moved back to her cart, sniffling. The nurses say you might be able to hear me, even if you can't respond. I hope that's not true. I hope you're just floating in some peaceful darkness where nothing can touch you. Because honestly, that sounds kind of nice right about now. She took a deep, shaky breath. Okay, I need to pull it together. Still have 6 more rooms to clean tonight, and crying doesn't pay the rent. The cart squeaked as she pushed it toward the door. Good luck, Mr. Wellington. I hope you wake up. And when you do, I hope you figure out whatever it is you're trying to escape. Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you had everything people dream about having. It'd be a shame to waste it. The door opened, then closed. Her footsteps faded down the hallway, and Marcus Wellington lay in his hospital bed, eyes still closed, breathing still steady, perfectly still. But inside, everything had shattered. He couldn't stop thinking about her voice, about the exhaustion in it, the resignation, the desperate determination to keep fighting even when fighting seemed pointless. She was drowning, not in gold coins like his mother had said about him. She was drowning in real water, the kind that fills your lungs and steals your breath and doesn't care how hard you swim. And she was still swimming, while he, Marcus Wellington, billionaire, genius, visionary, had decided to just float face down and pretend to be unconscious. The shame hit him like a physical force. He'd been lying here for 5 days, hiding from stress and pressure and problems that were fundamentally luxurious. His business partner wanted control of the company. His ex-wife had philosophical concerns about his life choices. His board was worried about quarterly projections. These weren't real problems. These were the complaints of someone who'd never had to worry about rent, about medicine, about whether his car would last another month. She was facing eviction with a determination he couldn't even summon for his own company's survival. She was working herself to exhaustion for $4,500 while he lay in a bed that probably cost more than that per night. She was still fighting while he'd given up before the battle even really started. Marcus had spent the last 5 days discovering what people really thought of him, what his life had really become. He'd learned that he'd built success at the cost of meaning, that he'd achieved everything and ended up with nothing that mattered. But this young janitor, this woman whose name he didn't even know, had shown him something else entirely. She'd shown him what real struggle looked like, what real strength looked like, what it meant to face impossible odds and keep fighting anyway. Not because you were sure you'd win, but because giving up wasn't an option. He'd been so consumed by his own self-pity, so focused on his own burnout and stress, that he'd forgotten what real hardship looked like. No, that wasn't quite right. He'd never known what real hardship looked like. Not really. He'd been poor once, years ago, before Wellington Tech took off. He'd lived in a studio apartment and eaten ramen and worried about bills. But he'd been young and single and healthy, with an engineering degree and no dependents. His poverty had been temporary, circumstantial. He'd always known, on some level, that he'd escape it. She didn't have that certainty. She was trapped in a cycle of working herself to death just to stay barely afloat, with people depending on her, with no clear path out. And she was still going, still fighting, still showing up to clean hospital rooms at 11 p.m. after working all day, trying to be kind to a comatose stranger who probably had more money in his wallet than she'd see in a year. Marcus lay in the darkness and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Genuine, profound shame. Not shame about business decisions or failed relationships or disappointed parents. Shame about who he'd become, about the fact that he'd had every advantage, every opportunity, every resource, and he'd still ended up so hollow and lost that faking a coma seemed like a reasonable solution. While she had nothing and kept fighting anyway. The night wore on. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped. The hospital hummed with its nocturnal rhythms. And Marcus made a decision. He waited until morning, until the day shift nurses had done their rounds and Dr. Patel had checked his vitals and left, muttering about mysterious cases and unusual presentations. Then, slowly, he opened his eyes. The light was sharp, painful after 5 days in darkness. He blinked, squinted, let his vision adjust. His private room came into focus. Cream-colored walls, expensive equipment, fresh flowers someone had brought, probably his mother, a window with a view of the city skyline. His empire, his kingdom, the world he'd built and then tried to escape. He reached for the call button, his arms stiff and sore from days of immobility. Pressed it. 30 seconds later, a nurse rushed in. Her eyes went wide. "Mr. Wellington, you're awake." "Yeah," Marcus said, his voice rough and hoarse. "I'm awake." Oh my God. Oh my God. Let me get Dr. Patel." "Don't move, just stay right there." She ran out. Marcus heard her shouting in the hallway. He's awake. Mr. Wellington is awake. Footsteps pounded. Dr. Patel burst in, followed by 2 more nurses. Marcus, Dr. Patel said, grabbing a penlight and shining it in Marcus's eyes. Can you hear me? Do you know where you are? I'm in County General Private Wing. Marcus said. He paused, doing the math. It's been 5 days since I collapsed, or appeared to collapse. Dr. Patel's eyebrows shot up. You're aware of the time passage? I heard things. Conversations. Visitors. I couldn't respond, but I was aware. The doctor and nurses exchanged glances. This was apparently unusual. We need to run some tests. Dr. Patel said. Neurological assessments, cognitive function, motor skills. This kind of sudden recovery from stress-induced catatonia is highly irregular. I'm fine. Marcus said. Physically, I'm fine. We still need to. What I need, Marcus interrupted, trying to sit up, is to find someone. A janitor. Young woman, works the night shift. She was in my room last night around 11. The nurses looked at each other, confused. The night cleaning staff? One of them said. I don't know their names. They're contracted through an outside service. I need to find her. Marcus insisted. It's important. Mr. Wellington, you just emerged from a 5-day catatonic state. Finding a janitor is not the priority right now. We need to. Then get me someone who knows how to find her, Marcus said, and there was something in his voice, some echo of the CEO who'd built a billion-dollar company, that made the nurse stop arguing. I'll call down to facilities management, she said uncertainly. Do that. Marcus swung his legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the protest from Dr. Patel. And give me my phone. I need to make some calls. Marcus, you need a rest. You need to be assessed. I've rested for 5 days. He stood up, swaying slightly, grabbing the 4-pole for balance. I'm done resting. Dr. Patel looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Marcus's expression stopped him. At least sit down while we do basic vitals. The doctor said. Please. Marcus nodded and sat back on the bed. Let them check his blood pressure, his heart rate, his pupil response. Answered their questions about cognitive function and memory and motor control. All the while, his mind was racing. He needed to find her, needed to know her name, her story, whether she'd found a way to come up with that $4,500. Needed to do something that actually mattered for once in his privileged, wasteful life. A nurse came back with his phone. The battery was dead, of course. She plugged it in, and a few minutes later, it powered on to a barrage of notifications. 247 missed calls, 683 text messages, 1,492 emails. Marcus ignored all of them. He called his assistant instead. Jennifer? It's Marcus. There was a gasp on the other end. Oh my God. Marcus? You're awake. I am awake. I need you to do something for me. Of course. Anything. What do you need? I need you to find out which company provides night cleaning services to County General Private Wing. Then I need you to give me contact information for a young woman who works that shift. She was cleaning my room last night around 11 p.m. Okay. That's unusual, but okay. Can I ask why? You can ask, but I'm not going to explain right now. Just find her, Jennifer. It's important. All right. I'll get on it immediately. Marcus, are you okay? Everyone's been so worried. I'm fine. Or I'm going to be. Just find her. He hung up before she could ask more questions. Dr. Patel was watching him with concern. Marcus, I really think you should stay here for at least another day. We need a monitor. How much do I owe for the room? Marcus interrupted. What? The hospital bill. 4 or 5 days in this private room. How much? Dr. Patel blinked. I'd have to check with billing, but probably around $40,000. What? Make it $50,000. The extra $10,000 is a donation to your hardship fund for patients who can't afford their medical bills. The doctor's mouth fell open slightly. And I want you to identify which of your staff members are working multiple jobs or struggling financially. Don't tell them why you're asking. Just find out who's barely making it. Then I want their names. Marcus, I can't just give you patient employee information. There are privacy concerns. I'm not asking for their social security numbers. I'm asking for first names and situations. If someone tells you they're working 3 jobs and about to lose their apartment, that's relevant information for what I'm planning. What exactly are you planning? Marcus stood up again, more steady this time. I'm planning to stop wasting my life. Now, where are my clothes? Jennifer called back 2 hours later. By that time, Marcus had checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice, gone home to his empty penthouse, showered, changed, and was sitting in his home office staring at his laptop. Her name is Nia Patterson, Jennifer said. She's 26, works for Precision Cleaning Services. They contract with 3 hospitals and 4 office buildings. She's been with them for 3 years. Do you have contact information? I have the company's number. With each detail, Marcus felt the weight of her life settling onto his shoulders. A life he'd glimpsed for only a few minutes, but which had been real and ongoing and desperately difficult long before he'd heard about it. Jennifer, I need you to do something else for me. Name it. Contact David Shun. Tell him I'm awake and I want a meeting tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp, and tell him to bring those succession documents he was so eager to get signed. Are you sure that's a good idea? You just woke up from. I'm sure. Also, I want you to set up a meeting with our legal team and our CFO. And I want a full breakdown of Wellington Tech's charitable foundation budget. Marcus, you're scaring me a little. Are you sure you're okay? He thought about that question. Was he okay? No, he wasn't okay. He'd been not okay for years, maybe decades. He'd built a life that looked impressive from the outside and felt hollow from within. He'd chased success until it became a prison. He'd accumulated wealth he didn't enjoy and power he didn't want. But maybe, just maybe, he could start becoming okay. I'm not okay yet. He told Jennifer honestly, but I'm working on it. To set up those meetings. He hung up and stared at his computer screen, where he'd pulled up information on Riverside Management LLC and Harold Kessler. The company owned 17 properties across the city, all in lower-income neighborhoods, all with suspiciously high eviction rates. Harold Kessler had been sued 4 times for illegal eviction practices and twice for maintenance code violations. A slumlord, basically. The kind of person who made money by squeezing poor people for every penny they had and then throwing them out when they couldn't pay anymore. Marcus made a note. He'd deal with Mr. Kessler. But first, he needed to deal with Nia Patterson's immediate problem. He picked up his phone and called his bank. Marcus Wellington, I need to arrange a cashier's check. $4,500. I need it ready within the hour. Then he called his lawyer. Richard? It's Marcus. Yes, I'm awake. Long story. Listen, I need you to draw up some documents. Employment contract. Medical benefits package. Education benefits. I need it ready by tomorrow morning. Then he called Jennifer back. One more thing. That donation I mentioned to the hospital hardship fund, make it $100,000. And find out which of the hospital's cleaning staff have been there longest. I want to know who's been working thanklessly for years. Marcus, what's going on? This isn't like you. That's the point. He said quietly. The old me needs to stop existing. Just trust me on this, okay? Okay. But Marcus, I'm glad you're awake. Not just awake. I'm glad you're back. The real you, not the burnout shell you'd become. After he hung up, Marcus sat in silence for a long moment. The real him. Who was the real Marcus Wellington? He thought he knew. The genius founder. The visionary CEO. The self-made billionaire. But maybe the real Marcus Wellington was the person who could hear someone's pain and actually do something about it. Not because it was good PR or good business, but because it was the right thing to do. Maybe the real Marcus Wellington was someone who'd been buried under years of success and stress and losing sight of what actually mattered. And maybe it had taken a desperate janitor's confession to help him remember. Marcus showed up at Riverside Apartments the next morning at 8 a.m., driving himself in his Tesla, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt instead of his usual suit. The building was exactly what he'd expected, a 3-story brick structure that had probably been built in the 1970s and hadn't been properly maintained since. The parking lot was cracked and potholed. Paint peeled from the window frames. A broken security gate hung open uselessly. He found apartment 2B and knocked. For a moment, there was silence. Then he heard movement inside, footsteps approaching cautiously. "Who is it?" A woman's voice, older, tired. "My name is Marcus Wellington. I'm looking for Nia Patterson." More silence. Then, "Nia's at work. She works mornings now, too." Of course she did. Because one job wasn't enough. "Are you her mother?" "Mrs. Patterson." "Who's asking?" I'm someone who wants to help. Please, can we talk?" The door opened a crack, still on the chain. Marcus felt the shame wash over him again. This woman, in pain and struggling, still worried more about her daughter than herself. "Mrs. Patterson, I was in the hospital recently. County General, your daughter cleaned my room one night. She thought I was unconscious, but I could hear her. She told me about the eviction, about the money you needed." Sandra's expression shifted from suspicion to something more complex. Embarrassment, maybe, or anger at her daughter for sharing their private struggles. "Nia shouldn't have been bothering patients with our problems." "She wasn't bothering me. She was talking to herself. She didn't think I could hear." Marcus leaned forward. "Mrs. Patterson, what she said, it woke me up, literally and figuratively. I've been feeling sorry for myself, hiding from my own life, and she reminded me what real struggle looks like. We're not your inspiration," Sandra said sharply. "We're not some story for you to feel good about helping." "No," Marcus agreed. "You're not. You're real people with real problems, and I'm someone with resources who can actually help solve one of those problems. That's all this is." Sandra studied him carefully. "You're the billionaire, aren't you? The one who was in the coma. I saw it on the news." "Yes, ma'am. And now you want to play savior?" "No, I want to do one decent thing. Maybe the first actually decent thing I've done in years." Something in his honesty must have reached her, because Sandra's expression softened slightly. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing. Nobody gives away $4,500 for nothing." "Then let's say I want peace of mind. I want to know that your daughter can stop working 3 jobs, that you can afford your medicine, that Terrell can focus on school instead of helping pay rent." Sandra's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know what it's been like. Watching Nia destroy herself, trying to keep us afloat. She's 26 years old, and she looks 40. She never sleeps, never eats right, never has time for friends or dating or any kind of life. Just work, 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 trying to keep us from drowning." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I heard it in her voice. She dropped out of college for me. Did she tell you that? She was studying to be a teacher. She loved it. But when I got sick and couldn't work anymore, she dropped out to take care of me and support Terrell. She gave up everything." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Then let me give something back. Please, let me pay the rent. Let me take this one burden off her shoulders." Sandra wiped her eyes. "Why? Really, why?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer honestly. "Because I had every advantage in life, and I used them to build a company I didn't even enjoy running. Because I worked myself into the ground for money I didn't need. Because I was drowning in luxury while your daughter was drowning in necessity, and hearing the difference made me realize how badly I'd lost my way." He met Sandra's eyes. "I don't expect you to trust me. I don't expect gratitude. I need to do this. For her. For you. Maybe for myself, too. But mostly because it's the right thing to do, and I haven't done nearly enough right things in my life." Sandra was crying openly now. "God, you don't know what this means. The eviction hearing is Friday. We've been praying for a miracle, but I'd stopped believing in those. Would you like to know how he turned the janitor life around? Are you not curious what he will do to his partner and the people who already said a lot to him while lying on coma bed? Grab a cup of coffee and stay tuned."